In today's video, we are going to be making
the worst country in the world right now.
We have 12 different categories, as you can see beside me, and these are the categories that we are going to be filling out to make the worst country of the current age. Starting things off, we have the hygiene. Hygiene is very important to a country you don't even understand. Hygiene includes the water purity. So if you want to have a drink of water, how hygienic is that water? How bad do people smell? How do people bathe? How do people shower? How regularly do they shower? And the worst country in the world for this right now, unfortunately, is Niger. Niger is ranked last on the hygiene index, if you will. I'm not sure who's first, but I know Niger is last. Our next category is the weather. Now, weather is subjective. I could like very hot weather and despise very cold weather, or it could be the other way around. So this is more opinion based. But in my opinion, the country with the worst weather in the entire world is easily England. Do you know why? It could be midsummer and snowing, and then it could be 25th of December and beautiful sun outside. We have the weirdest weather cycle in the world. It never lines up with the seasons.
It's just not good. It's always grey clouds. It's always boring. It's just horrible weather. We are easily the worst weather on the planet.
Excluding like Antarctica, because obviously I'd freeze to death. But still, I'd even argue the fact that we're worse. I want you guys to play along, by the way, and put your 12 categories in the comments down below and make your own personal worst country. But anyway, we're now moving on to the food. Now, this country is just known for having some of the craziest foods in the world. When I'm going to tell you what this food is, you might vomit, so be prepared. Fermented duck. People in the Philippines, yep, Philippines is the country for the food here, eat fermented duck egg. Yeah, they have a duck egg that they like sort of let, like, I don't know, become a real duck for like 14 to 21 days, crack it open, there's a duck in there, like not an alive duck, but like a fermented, like about to be alive duck. Do you know what I mean? Like it could have been alive. It is pretty much a duck, and they just scran it. They just eat this fermented duck. It's genuinely...
it's horror, it's horror.
And there's some other very questionable Filipino food. I'm not gonna lie, I would not eat many Filipino foods. I'll be in McDonald's 24/7. You're not catching me going around streets eating from street vendors. No chance! Next up, we have the military. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, oh, he's gonna pick Iceland, he's gonna pick Iceland. I'm not picking Iceland. I'm actually picking Bhutan, because Bhutan are statistically, right now, the weakest military in the entire world. So this country so far that I've made has got some absolute stinkers for categories, which I apologise for, but this is the aim of the game. So we've got bad food, bad hygiene, bad weather, and bad military, and we've only just started. And now we're getting into the crime rate. The country with the worst crime rate in the world is Venezuela, with an 82.1 index. That is insane, considering second place has an 80.1 index. That's insane. So for our country, we are having the crime rate of Venezuela, which is obviously
the worst.
And if you think this country's bad enough, don't worry, it gets worse, because we're now moving on to the economy, where we will be picking the economy of South Sudan. They have a poverty rate of 82.3%, which is absolutely insane to me. This economy being so bad is mainly because of civil wars and political turmoils, but they have one of the worst economies in the world. I don't know if it's the worst economy in the world, but it's definitely one of them, so that is why we're picking South Sudan. Next up, for any big country, it's very important to have some very good allies. If you didn't have good allies, you might get run over in a war. If you get run over in a war, you lose all your population, you lose all your money, you lose all your country, you lose everything. But this country that we're making has no allies. I've gone through a little bit of a loophole here, and I have picked a neutral country. So this country technically doesn't have any allies, but they're a neutral country anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the allies that we will be having are the allies of Switzerland, which are nobody. They are a neutral country, so they have no allies. Does that make sense? Now, moving on to the landmass. We are picking the landmass of Monaco. I bet you're thinking, why have you picked Monaco? That's a very small country. Why have you done that? I mean, that doesn't really make much sense to me. Just hear me out. Just let me cook. So Monaco is 2.08 square kilometers long, yeah? That's how big it is. But our population is going to be India. Yeah. Yeah. 1.4 billion people in a 2-kilometer radius. Yes, you're dead by asphyxiation and squashingness. You're screwed. There's no way you're living. There's actually no way you're living. You're so screwed.
It's actually insane how dead you are if you live in this country. You've got bad weather, horrible hygiene, bad food, no military, economy's horrible, bad allies. You live in a 2-kilometre radius with 1.4 billion people. Yeah.
Have fun. That isn't bad enough, it gets worse. We're now moving on to the nuclear forces. Somehow, you've survived that squashing of 1.4 billion people, but we now move on to the nuclear forces. We have the nuclear forces of Iceland. This could have been many countries. Some countries don't have nukes. Actually, the majority of the world don't have nukes. I just picked Iceland because why not? You know, they don't have nukes. I like Iceland. They can go in this video. Now moving on to the flags. This one is obviously up for opinion, it's up for debate. But for me, to have the worst country in the world, you need to have quite a minimalistic and boring flag. So for this reason, and this reason only, I'm picking Japan's flag. Don't kill me! Don't kill me! I think it's a bit of a boring flag. I love Japan. I want to visit Japan. I've always wanted to visit Japan. I've got it on my Bean app where you can like wish where you want to travel to. That's my number one. I want to go to Japan very, very badly. But the flag's boring.
I'll say with chest, they've got a boring flag. It's a red dot on a white background. It's boring. It is boring. It's going in the worst country list.
And I think to round it off, it's only right we do the safety. In this country, where you live in a 2-kilometre radius with 1.4 billion people, you'll be living in the safety zone of Afghanistan. So there isn't much safety there, to be honest. It's obviously not the safest country in the world. It's known for not being quite safe. And now it is the safety of this worst country. So sorry about that.
I completely forgot to add tourism. Tourism is obviously a massive, massive category, and for me to miss that, I feel like a bit of an idiot. So we've added the 13th category of tourism. Now, I'm torn on what to pick for this because obviously I could just go for North Korea where there's only a handful of people that go there a year. But I feel like that's boring. That's such an obvious pick. But then there's Tuvalu that has about 3,000 people that visit their country a year. But then is that boring as well? However, visiting North Korea would be quite cool though to see what North Korea is like because no one actually gets to see what North Korea is like. Do you know what I mean? Do you get where I'm coming from? But for the worst country, our tourism is gonna be... Yeah, it is going to be North Korea. We are going to pick North Korea because literally no one can go there. They earn barely any money from tourism. So we are picking North Korea as our tourism for the worst country we could possibly think of. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Sorry for that, I just completely forgot about adding it in.
So as a whole, we have the hygiene of Niger, the weather of the UK, the food of the Philippines, the military of Bhutan, the crime rate of Venezuela, the economy of South Sudan, the allies of Switzerland, which is none, the landmass of Monaco, and the population of India, then the nuclear forces of Iceland, the flag of Japan, and the safety of Afghanistan. So I do believe this is probably the worst country in recent times that I could possibly make. If you want to see another video of me making the best country I could possibly make, or the worst country of all time, including like BC times, like this video, let's get to 2,000 likes and make sure you subscribe.